Hello, this is Bob Gray Sr. Welcome to Ministry Moments, Lord willing, every Friday, 3 o'clock Central Time. We'll come to you live. And if you can go to YouTube, the Ministry Moments, I'll spit it out in a Biden moment there. But go to Ministry Moments and YouTube, and then subscribe. That way you'll get this every week just right on time. You can listen to it at your own leisure if you'd like. But we'll be here every Friday at 3 o'clock Central Time, and hopefully very practical, very helpful things to you. I like that. I like the practicalities of the ministry. I like it in teaching and preaching. I love it. I love it. Just give me something I can get my hands on and something I can do with. Well, today I want to talk to you about managing debt. And in a day and time when the pandemic hit, a lot of people lost their jobs, and there's a lot of anxiety out there concerning finances. I want to give you some very practical things I think would be of help to you. I've been working a job since I was a kid. My first job was that of a paper boy, and you don't have paper boys anymore. But back in those days, they had a life. It was good money. I mean, we made up to $25 a week. It was a lot of money. I'll never forget the first time I came home. Two things I remember about my paper route. One, I came home one day with the money that I'd made, and I was on the kitchen table and had it laid out. And my mama come over and said, "How much do you have?" And don't hold me to it. I don't remember how much I had. But she looked at it, she counted it all up. She said, "Yeah, that's what you got." And she took 10% and put it over here. And she said, "Now, son, that belongs to Jesus." And I didn't say it out loud because I was afraid of my mama. But I, I said, I said under my breath, and let him get his own paper route. But I never, thank God for my mama, and thank God for my daddy too. Even when my daddy was not serving God, he still made sure that they got that tithe check in. It's strange, isn't it? And my dad got saved when he was young. I thought he'd gotten saved older in life when he got right with God, but he told me no, he got saved as a child. But he tithed. He would say to my mama's name was Mary, "Mary, you got that tithe check?" Figure that one out. But anyway, I have never had any money come through my hands that I've not tithed on and given an offering. It just doesn't happen. It's not going to happen. And, and God's been good to Mrs. Gray and myself. Been married 56 years as of the taping of this broadcast. So let's talk about managing debt. You want to? We're going to anyway. All right. Number one, do not make an unsecured debt. Do not make an unsecured debt. By that, I mean you make sure the car is worth more than what you owe. Yeah, a little difficult, but it's true. Make sure you own more house than you owe. And so when you get a debt, don't get just a paycheck. They got one of those payroll deals now. You take and get borrow off of what your potential paycheck's going to be. Don't do that. You make sure if you have a debt. By the way, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing unscriptural about debts. Now you say, what about usury? That's excessive interest. Excessive interest. And that's just wrong. It's just biblically wrong and morally wrong and legally wrong in some areas. All right. So number one, do not make an unsecured debt. Number two, do not borrow from parents, family, or friends. Let me say it again. Do not borrow from family, parents, family, or friends. I have, Miss Gray and I have been married 56 years. We have never borrowed a dime from our parents. Never, never. I remember when she went to get her examination back in those days. Abraham Lincoln was president, but back in those days, you had to get a blood test and everything before you got married. And I don't remember what it was. It's something like $5 to get it done back in those days. So Leanne's dad said to her, "Well, just put it on my bill down there." So she went to Dr. Spears, got it all done, got ready for getting married. And he said to Dr. Spears, "Well, my dad said to put it on his bill." And he said, "No, you're going to pay for it. That you're getting married, you're going to have a family. No, you're going to pay for it." And I thank God for the people around us that made sure we understood. Now you're responsible now. You pay the bill, don't you? But we never borrowed a dime from her parents, my parents. We never did. All right. So number one, do not make an unsecured debt. Number two, do not borrow from parents, family, or friends. Number three, do not pay off the mortgage with retirement money. You should be, and I'm going to talk about it just in a second here, but you should be saving for retirement. And because something you're going to have to, you're going to get old. You're going to get to where you can't work, can't move, can't get around, and you better be prepared for it. But don't pay off your mortgage. Don't feel like if I pay that mortgage off, that's going to help me. No, generally what happens is more money, you'll spend it. That's exactly what you'll do. You're not going to put that money away for retirement. If you're forced in some program, a 401k or 401, I think it's an R for religious, I think. If that's the case, then do that and take your cotton picking hands off it and figure out another way to make sure so that you can make sure you've got that retirement. All right. So number one, we're talking about managing debt now. Do not make an unsecured debt. Do not borrow from parents, family, or friends. It'll cause you more heartache. Number three, do not pay off the mortgage with retirement money. Number four, never buy a new car. Never buy a new car. I did not realize this when I was first car bought. I bought a brand new car. I'll never forget. Later on, I learned how much they depreciate when you drive it off the lot. I started working for General Motors. I discovered a lot. I remember that first car. I was so proud of that thing. I took it to work and parked it on the far end of the parking lot. And all the guys we were talking, they said, well, we want to see your car. So they walked out there. I parked it away from the others so it wouldn't get any dings or damage. But when I went back there, it had a scratch on it that far on the back. And I stood there and cried. I did everything I could, but it had already been damaged one day at work and it had already been scratched. But so number one, do not make an unsecured debt. Number two, do not borrow from parents, family, or friends. Don't do it. It'll create problems. If you're going to, if somebody wants to borrow it, don't do it. Just give it to them. Number three, do not pay off the mortgage with retirement money. Number four, never buy a new car. Number five, buy used cars. Have mechanics check it and go over it and so on. But you'll save $10,000 just by looking around, shopping around, and they'll give you a warranty on these used cars also. So my suggestion, I'd suggest you not buy a new car. It's going to cost you $10,000. You drive off the lot, you lost $10,000 just like that. And buy used cars. Now you need to get them checked. If it's from a private party, you need to make sure you get it to send it to a mechanic, have a mechanic look it over. And again, there are so many warranties available for used cars now. It's not like it used to be. It's different now. All right. We're talking about managing debt now. Number one, do not make an unsecured debt. Make sure you got some asset to back it up. Number two, do not borrow from parents, family, or friends. It will create ill feeling. Don't do it. Number three, I was in North Carolina and I taught a lesson, Sunday school lesson on forgiveness. I teach around the country. And a guy walked up to me and he said, I need your help. I said, what is it? I said, I just heard you teaching. He said, there's a man in this church, every time I see him, I think about the $500 he owes me. And I said, really? Yeah. I said, how long has this been? He said, 15 years. Oh man, that's terrible. Going to church and seeing a guy and all you think about is money, $500. So just don't lend, don't loan it. Just give it to them. Number four, never buy a new car. You'll lose 10,000, at least 10,000 depreciation, if not more. Number five, buy used cars. You can get warranties on these cars. So have a mechanic check it over before you buy it. Number six, do not borrow on anything you cannot pay extra on. Don't buy a house unless you can pay extra. Don't buy anything unless you can pay extra. In other words, there's enough leeway there to allow you to be able to pay on it. That will cut the interest in half and cut the years or months in half. I'm telling you, it'll make a difference. But when you borrow something, don't borrow. That's why at church that I pastored for 30 years, we lived on 90% of our income. The financial ladies were excellent with it. We never lived on 100%. That allowed us to have money in case of being sued, and we were, or emergencies, and we had those. So it was very wise to do so. I was just at a church, God bless them, they had terrible roof problems and just ruined everything. And the guy that did the roof that reigned in the middle of his working on the roof did not have a bond. And so the church got stuck for it. And the insurance paid for it, but the church got stuck for something like $60,000. But the pastor was so wise, he listened. He did not live on all of his income church-wise, and he had $100,000 in the bank. Well, he was able to take it out and take care of that. I've seen lawsuits as high as $200,000 to where we had to pay out. It happens. It happens. They look at a church that's big, got a lot of buildings. They think it's a deep pocket. This is not true, and they're so crazy anyway. But do not borrow on anything that you cannot pay extra on. That leaves you a cushion. Number one, do not make an unsecured debt. Have an asset behind it. Number two, do not borrow from parents, family, or friends. It'll create ill will. It will. Number three, do not pay all off the mortgage with retirement money. Leave that retirement money alone. Number four, never buy a new car. If you do, you can drive off the lot. I know it's pretty, it smells good, and everything. I know that. I've been there. Now, but you're going to realize after a while it's going to cost you a lot of money. Number five, buy used cars. You can get warranties for these cars now. Have a good mechanic look at it and buy a used car. Do not borrow anything you cannot pay extra on. Leave a little cushion, pay extra. I would never, as a pastor, borrow money on a church that I did not have be able to pay it off, an open-end mortgage. That's what I was trying to think of. All right, number seven, shop for the best interest rates. Every year, you ought to sit down and say, okay, these are the debts I have. Because the interest rates, boy, they're down right now. They may go up, but shop around because that's going to save you money. And then last of all, you've been waiting for me to get there. I'm finally here. Are you ready? Here's the priority. Work, earn, save, spend. Let me say it again. Work, earn, save, spend. You got it? Write it down now. Here we go. Work, earn, save, spend. Now, this is about managing debt. Debt is not unscriptural. Debt is not unwise. Only if the elements of it are not within common sense. So I've given you some things here about managing debt. We're going to have debt. I never felt like I wanted the church to be debt free. I wanted them to stay in debt, but I'm going to make sure that it never went over 25% of the income for the previous year. All budgets were based on prior years, not speculation on coming years. And you don't want to borrow money on projected income because that projected income may not happen. You may not even have a job. God's people are living by faith. By faith. Faith is believing, stepping out, and doubting, and stepping out. That's exactly what it is. You have faith. We went to Hiles Anderson College. I worked for General Motors. I had a prime job for I was young back then. And we had a brand new 2-story colonial home we built. We loved it. I played golf. We had it made. And then I went to a sword conference and God broke my heart. And I said, whoo, this is not right. I got a P&L statement over here, secure job with General Motors, or people dying and going to hell over here. What am I going to do? Well, I decided I was going to give my life to trying to keep people out of hell. And so I did. Now, I had a whole new world. I had Mrs. Great. I had a whole new world, financial world ahead of us. And we had to sit down and try to figure out just exactly how to, ministry wise, you're not going to make money, a lot of money in the ministry. That's all there is to it. And especially things happen, I had my retirement cut out, just stop flat. Try that one when you're 70 years of age. And so you can't depend on a church. You can't depend on anyone. You have to depend on God. And so because of some very wise dealings, money, again, we're just living week to week, and thank God for all the God's people that make it possible for us to have a ministry. But I hope this will help you managing debt. It's very important for you because it really is a picture of your spirituality. The least of these, he talked about in Luke. God looks at how you handle the least, the mammon, before he can trust you with true riches. So really, there is a great secret here of managing this right. And God then says, hey, I can trust you. God bless you. Managing Debt, Ministry Moments, every Friday, 3 o'clock Central Time. I hope you'll join me next week. God bless you. Have a great weekend. Don't you forget to go soul winning now. Have a great weekend.